Hello and welcome to a Midweek Photo Talk. This time it is already episode number 8, and we've got a special guest. It's Suzanne Clemens, and we will talk today about microstock photography. What is microstock photography? How do you get into that? What's important? What tripping hazards are there? She will surely tell us everything about that. But before we start, Andy's got something to tell us. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
well, yeah, you can stop. Just to remind everybody that's watching this sometime in the near future is that this week the Plus One Collection charity book was released to the general public in the standard print edition, priced at $65 for the soft cover, $75 for the hardcover, with a good amount going to the charity. Also, the ebook, which is much more affordable at $5. That's £3.26 to the Brits out there. You know, that's the price of a pint. I'm sure you can give up a drink for the night and have a look at that book. Fantastic photography in it, and also one of my pictures is in there. Page 174 or 176 or something like that.
Yeah, so there must be fantastic pictures in there, with yours in there. I
Yeah.
agree.
So
So,
the charity's Kiva, which is it's a world organisation that loans gives out small loans to third world countries and poor people all over the world to help them get a footing in life. So if you
def
can support that, be great. And we'll just pass on to the next stage.
definitely good thing. I already bought my PDF version. So let's start with the
Me
introduction,
too.
and we'll do it now from right to left. So we start with Roger. Hi there, Roger.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm Roger from the Netherlands, and this night I'm with my little polar bear here.
Hi, Polar Bear. Hi, Roger.
So, well, I'm a part-time photographer, and you can find me on Google Plus. So I give it through to Mark.
Hello, I'm Mark Helm. I'm from Dorchester, Ontario, Canada. I'm retired. I'm a macro photographer. You can find me here on Google Plus or at mhelm.com. Uh, that's about it. On to Kev.
Hi, I'm Kev Isabeth. I'm from New Zealand and I live in Ireland. And you can find me here on Google Plus.
Hi, my name is Don Knoll. I'm a stay-at-home dad and weekend photographer. Uh, you can find me right here.
Hi, I'm Chris. You can find me here on Google Plus or at corcel-photography.com, and I'll pass it on to Andy.
Thank you, Chris.
I can't see
Yes.
because yeah,
Are you blind today?
no, I'm sitting underneath Dawn.
I'm heavy.
Anyhow.
Poor guy.
Whatever.
I'm Andy Gray. I'm up in the northeast of England, part-time photographer, and I first sold my first limited edition print today. Yay!
Yay!
Awesome,
Yay.
cool
Round of
stuff.
applause. Thank you very much. It is
What?
it is a one of one limited edition, which
Oh,
went next door.
that's really limited.
Very limited, and it was cheap as well.
Cool.
Miserable next door. And I'll see we've got Steve come in.
Yeah.
Hello, Steve.
Hi, hi, Steve. I'm Manchester-based in the UK and part-time photographer.
Yes, hi, and my name is Andrew Apple. I'm a photographer from central Germany. I run a studio here and do landscape work whenever I'm not in the studio. So now it's up to our special guest to introduce herself and give us a great insight into microstock photography. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello, I am Suzanne Clements, and I am a graphic designer, photographer, and a little bit of everything. You can find me here on Google Plus or at SuzanneClements.com, and that's CLEMENTS.com. So, one of the first questions that you had was, what is microstock? So, microstock tends to source from the internet. And instead of sort of using a limited number of photographers, they have a wide number of photographers that they actually accept imagery from. And they don't necessarily only take photography, they'll take illustration, sometimes video, as well as audio snippets. Some of the sites are taking those as well at this time. Additionally, if you're a bit of a hobbyist or somebody who just sort of dabbles in photography, this is also a good way for you to sort of get your feet wet with this, making money, and not a lot of it at first, by selling your images on microstock sites. So, one of the things that you might ask is, why would I want to sell microstock, right? There's sort of a debate, why to sell, why not to sell with microstock. And so my own personal experience is that selling with microstock has helped me to earn a little bit of extra money to buy equipment or to go on trips to take, photography, or just, just to feed my eBay habit. So it doesn't hurt. And it's also a challenge, as a photographer, to start working outside of your creative comfort zone. You'll often find, you may sort of lean towards certain styles or certain subjects, but those may not be what sell on microstock, or even just general stock photography, what people are actually looking for. So it gives you a challenge to really push yourself not to fall into the same old habits as a photographer. And then if you do sell, it's pretty rewarding to see. Sometimes you'll have an image that really takes off, and you can't put your finger on why that particular photo does really well, but it's nice when it does because it's extra money in your pocket. And then, of course, if you're shooting on a regular basis, you're improving yourself as a photographer every time. I think every time I get out and I shoot, I learn something new about, maybe what my camera does or what I can do as a photographer. So those are some of the reasons why I do it, and I'm sure other people would have reasons that they would add above and beyond that. But to me, I don't have an issue with it, and I think it's a good way to sort of challenge and push myself. However,
here's the but.
Yeah. So there are plenty of people who would not be fans of selling their photography on microstock sites, and those would be people who want to retain full, complete control over the images. So one of the disadvantages is if you have a leaning in one particular political arena, or you're very conservative religiously or not, who knows. You can't control who's going to use your images and for what. So if you tend to use your kids in your stock imagery, and all of a sudden that kid gets posted up in some material that you don't agree with, too bad. You sold the image. That's, you don't have control over who buys it and what they use it for. Mm-hmm. So if you don't like that, don't do it. Or if you don't want your kids showing up in materials that you don't agree with, don't shoot your kids. And if you don't want your face to be plastered on something that you don't agree with, don't do self-portraits. Another reason would be, if you might tend to get upset about the small fees that you get paid, offended by the 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents per download, and find that to be too measly, don't do it. If it's going to annoy you every time you see a little 20-cent number show up, just let it go, and maybe it's just not for you. It adds up, though. You'd be surprised. Once you start getting the ball rolling and things start moving along, the money will add up. But some of it's 2 cents. Sometimes you get $5, and sometimes you get $100 or $200 when somebody buys a higher license. So, and another reason not to do it is just time. If you don't have the time to put into it, and you're not going to focus on it, maybe maybe you're not going to follow through with it, and it's just going to be an annoyance, then don't do it.
So you say so you say you have to really put time into it, or is it that if you scroll through your older pictures or whatever and say, oh, I could put those up and share them and spare them for whatever use they then occur, it doesn't work, or is that an option to get started?
Well, it's definitely a way to get started. I know a lot of us, when we first start and apply, we start going through what we have, like past shoots, and try to find images that look good and are clean, and these should get me in, they'll get me approved. But you'll find that probably a lot of what you typically shoot may not actually be images that the stock sites are going to buy. So they might get you in the door as far as getting your work approved, but they might not actually add those particular images to their library because there's a lot of images out there possibly already representing those particular subjects or those particular styles that you're shooting in. So sometimes, you know, it just sort of depends on what you've been shooting and what you have in your backlog, and it certainly doesn't hurt to dig through and see what would be appropriate, but it wouldn't hurt you to take a look at the stock sites and do a couple of keyword searches based off images that you have already in your library and see, you know, okay, I've got a lot of pictures of cooking. Okay, so let's see, what pictures of cooking do I have? These pictures. Okay, do a quick search through some of the stock sites, and if you see, like, I just have apples, right? And there's like thousands of pictures of apples because there's, you know, apples represent the medical community, so there's always an apple. There's an apple with a bite out of it. There's a red apple with a bite out of it. There's, you know, like if there's already dozens and dozens of pictures and they're already selling really well, it's going to be very hard to break into those particular subject matter areas. So it's a way to get started, to dig through what you have, but don't be disappointed if what you have isn't what they're necessarily looking for, isn't necessarily going to sell well. If that helps answer that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Once you put them on your stock site, can you sell them anywhere else? Or you then, yeah?
Yeah, it depends on how you get started. Some sites will ask you if you want to be an exclusive photographer from the start, but a lot of them will not let you do that until you've sort of proven yourself as a photographer. And a lot of us, when we get out there, we just get really excited and we sign up for multiple sites. So, like, I'm on Dreamstime, I'm on 123RF, I'm on Shutterstock, iStock Photo. I used to be on Stock Expert, but they shut down. And I think there's like at least 3 others. I can't even remember what I'm on. So when you first start, you get kind of excited and you're like, oh, these pictures got into this site, so I'm going to submit them over here and over here. And if you become an exclusive photographer, then you have to backtrack and remove those images from those libraries. And they have policies too. So like if an image has sold, you can't remove it from their library for X number of days. And so if you want to be an exclusive photographer, you kind of want to think about that up front before you start applying to dozens of different photography sites. And there's some pros and cons that I have written down about that. Should we talk about that?
All right, go ahead.
So as an exclusive photographer, you would actually get a better download fee per image. And many of the sites will feature you more heavily. So in searches, if you're an exclusive photographer just for them, your images will come up before other photographers' images who aren't exclusive in searches. So those are some good, good features. And you only have to upload once, so you don't have to worry about uploading to like 3 different stock sites. It saves you some time. The downside is your exposure may be increased on that particular site that you decide to go exclusive with. However, on the sites that you could have joined, you don't know what your earning potential might have been, and you might have done much better to sort of spread yourself out a little bit more and earn more and get more exposure. Actually, because as a graphic designer, sometimes I'll see that a photographer has worked on multiple sites, but I also know that, say, iStock Photo isn't going to necessarily accept the same images from everybody. Like, they're picky about this or that, whereas Dreamstime is less picky. So if I see a series of images that I could use, but I'm like short one image for a layout, I can go over to Dreamstime and know that I'll be able to find more of that photographer's work, and sometimes that's helpful. So it gives some information as far as the pros and cons of that. But know that if you make the decision, changing your mind is pretty difficult. It's just an arduous process to go from exclusive to non, or the other way around. So I was going to talk also about the types of images, like who buys them, what they use them for, and that would give you guys some guidance as far as what images you might have in your libraries that would be good to submit. This is probably pretty general knowledge, but like graphic designers, magazines, nonprofits, in-house design departments, and bloggers all use microstock. It's typically less expensive than going to a site like Getty Images, so it's really approachable. So you get a wide range of people who are using these images. And the types of subjects that people are looking for fall into a few basic categories. The first one being people and lifestyle images. And this includes everyday situations. So like Andre, earlier in the week we were talking and you said, oh yeah, they're always looking for people in business suits in the office and the workplace.
Yeah.
That is so well covered, but also that subject, I think, would be so hard to photograph well that I wouldn't even touch that with a 10-foot pole. There are photographers out there who do a great job. They've got fantastic models. They've got every ethnicity represented, every age represented, and their setups for the office look great. Like, I wouldn't even touch that. Unless you have those resources, just let them do that. Let them, cover that. It's so well covered. But the things that aren't covered very well would be like everyday situations, like cooking with your family, or teaching your kids how to cook, like having the kids put the cookie dough on the cookie sheet, cleaning the house, doing yard work, and just regular family interactions, your kids playing with the pets, your family traveling, just all the regular everyday stuff is actually less well represented, as far as I can find as a graphic designer, than the office scenario. And those are the ones that, like, if you can get your niche in there and do a really great job shooting some of those everyday situations, your portfolio could become quite successful if you can find a good subject in there. And just avoid the office. Because like the other pitfalls with the office, though, think about it. Like 5 years ago, people would have had CRT monitors all through the office shots. Well, nobody's buying those now, Or somebody's got a flip cell phone. Nobody's doing that anymore. So like if you're doing those office shots, there's a limited life on those. But if you're cooking in the kitchen, like a knife is still going to be a knife, So don't kill yourself trying to do the office shots and then only get like a couple years out of them. The other thing that I find useful as a graphic designer is having even just straight portrait shots of people. And multiple shots of the same people. They can be against a backdrop that's a vibrant color, or it could be black, or it could be white so that you can cut them out. But you want multiple shots, the same people making different emotions. So like, for example, I did a magazine layout about psychological issues that people would have, right? And say they're like bipolar. And so like the spread had multiple images of the same person, and they're like happy, and then they're sad, and they're crying, and then they're manic, If you don't have the ability to provide somebody multiple images of the same person, you might be losing a sale. So if you've got a model already booked, and you're already got the model release signed, and everything's good to go, just shoot the daylights out of them, and just really get some good mileage with them, because you never know. That might be the person that every designer says that's the person that represents my company. Like it's funny, certain models that people use to become really popular. Photographers that I use for like a company I do branding work for, there's a family, I think in Hawaii, and it's a mom and a little girl and her husband, and they're like sort of a surfing family. They're really sort of earthy and organic. Every time I'm looking for a picture for a marketing piece, I find that photographer's work. She's got some new images with the same family. It's perfect, and I can use it every time. So that's that. That's one category. But don't do office work. That's a big lesson. So then, like the still life, right? You think about there's all kinds of stuff. You can't even see it because I tried to clean up. There's all kinds of stuff in my office. There's all kinds of stuff in your office. There's all kinds of stuff in your kitchen, in your fridge, in your garage, in your car, everywhere, So what's funny is I'll do a layout and I'll be like, shoot, I really need a really nice picture of an onion. And you're like, who cares? It's an onion. But like some photographers can photograph an onion. It's the most gorgeous thing. And it's the perfect onion that I need. But I look through like dozens of onions before I find the right one when I'm doing a layout. So if you're looking for stuff to do, maybe you set one day aside every week and you just shoot stuff around the house. Empty your fridge, clean your fridge, do some photography. It's, a little multitasking. The wife will totally appreciate it. When she gets home, you'll have some more photos to upload. It's a win-win. So, because you think about it, like you clean out the fridge and maybe somebody's doing a cookbook and they need some ingredients to show in the cookbook. Some photographers will shoot them solo. Some photographers will put all the red fruit together and all the green vegetables together, and they do a really nice thing. Like one photographer did a really nice setup where they photographed a heart out of produce. And on one side it was all red, and the other side was all green, or red and yellow. But just think of creative ways that you can kind of use just what's in your house, and maybe make the image do double duty, right? Everybody has a picture of an apple, which I mentioned before. And they've got the apple with the measuring tape around it, like, eat an apple a day, don't be such a fatty, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's so done. But when you see somebody do something creative with produce, it's like, nobody else has bought this image yet, I'm going to use it for my layout, it's going to look great. Like, another one was a whole series of different forks, right? All lined up against a white backdrop, and on the tip of each fork was, like, a little tomato or a little bit of pepper, a little bit of onion, maybe some, snap peas, but the colors and everything was really nice. And as a designer, all the white space above, I could put my layout and my text in, and below, it's just the image that talks about and tells you, all right, we're talking about healthy eating. So there's a lot of ways to just look at what you have in your house and not be sort of like, what's outside my window that I need to go set up and be, doing elaborate shoots with. There's tons of stuff you have in your house, and you've got a unique perspective that you could bring to this that somebody else has not shot yet. Let's see. So the double duty, I covered 2 with that. So double duty images. Like a lot of people do also, like the sapling in the hands, where we're nurturing new life. It's a new start. It could represent new life. It could represent, getting back to the earth and being organic. If you can shoot images that can be conceptual and hit on sort of a hot topic or an emotion, your image will sell way better than just a straight, like, oh, here's a tree. You can have shot the most beautiful tree, but if it doesn't do something that all the other trees don't do, it's just going to be another tree, and they might not even accept it. Careers and jobs. This is a little bit different than the lifestyles, but like the types of jobs that are really hard to find as a graphic designer include people working in coffee shops, flower shops, doing bagging at grocery stores or stocking shelves, even working on a farm, or one that's really underrepresented, I think probably just because of copyright issues, would be like theme parks. But like, there's all sorts of careers out there that aren't covered well. And it's just, that's a trickier situation, but if you know somebody who owns their own coffee shop and would let you do some photography there, somebody who owns a shop and will let you use their shop for photography, take advantage of people as much as possible to get out of that whole office arena and just sort of expand upon different careers and things that you could cover beyond what we typically think of as stock imagery. Because I know the whole corporate world and the whole cube farm thing has been a huge part of what stock photography started out as. And, finding excellent, well-lit, beautiful images of somebody just grocery shopping is a challenge.
I would imagine that would be a problem, because you'd have to be, what's the trademark issue? Anything with labels on or logos, you would have to really avoid, because the stock microstock company wouldn't take that for a start, would they?
They won't. If there's a logo anywhere visible, they will not use it. You can blur out the logos, you can remove the logos, you can use a very narrow depth of field so that your subject is sharp but the background is blurry. As long as you can't read the logos, you would be fine. But I've done things where people have been on a shoot and they'll have like an Oshkosh or some sort of logo. You can remove that as long as the shape of the item isn't part of the brand of the item. So like,
but do they accept photoshopped images like that? Do they?
Mm-hmm.
I thought they like them pretty raw, or with
no,
little
not
work as
necessarily.
possible.
As long as it looked natural. As long as it didn't,
You can even do HDR, and you can do cross processing. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff, tilt shift, da 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 da. The thing is, if you start going down those paths where you're adding your own creative twist and your own sort of creative signature to the imagery, you're limiting who can buy it. So as a photographer, let's say that I'm doing a layout and I've got like 6 out of 10 images and I just need 4 more, and yours would have been perfect, but you changed the color and the tone, or you only offered it as a black and white, or it's an HDR and none of the other images are HDR, I can't buy it, it's not going to work. But if you really, really feel like that image cannot be improved anyway by not being HDR, like it's just beautiful, it has to be that, upload another version, like a copy that's clean, that isn't HDR. So you give the people the option to buy the super duper, maxed out image, but if they really need one that they can manipulate to match the rest of their layout, they could do that too. Because a lot of photographers will do that. I'll find an image and I'll be like, oh, it would be perfect if they didn't just, make it look retro. If it wasn't retro, it would fit with the rest of my layout. You go to that photographer's portfolio and you're like, yes! They thought of me, they uploaded a clean image, I can use it! You do a little happy dance. So it's not totally taboo, because some of those, some of that stylistic stuff is attractive, and sometimes that can drive you as a designer too. You'll find an image and you'll be like, this is fantastic, I'm gonna make everything look like this. So it's not totally a bad thing, but if you do it, I would upload both, just to make sure you cover your bases.
I got a question.
Sure.
Now, I uploaded a photograph and it was of a storefront.
Mm-hmm.
They rejected it because of copyright, because I didn't have a property release.
Right.
Now, according to the law in England, I don't need a property release because I photographed it from a public property.
Okay.
Now, can I rebut that, or would I just be like fighting a no-win battle?
I would suggest you be fighting a no-win battle. Yeah, they're not going to care what the local law is. It sort of matters, I think, what the law is here, I would suspect.
There you go.
Since your target audience
is all encompassing, and everybody else doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to go out and you're walking around and there's a chance you're going to run into someone or some location that you want to shoot, it never hurts to just have a couple of releases in your camera bag. I don't do it, but don't do as I do. Do as I say. What harm would it be to have a couple of releases in your bag or in your glove box in your car or whatever? Because then at least you're ready. I mean, how many times have you been out and you didn't bring your camera and you were like, oh, that would have been a fantastic shot. So, the person might say
my
no.
bag.
So, but the worst case scenario is they say no, and you still get a great shot just for yourself, But yeah, and the model releases, it would behoove you probably to even check and make sure, because like iStock Photo is quite particular about the language in their model releases. You are allowed to use your own, but you probably need to make sure that it's close enough, because you also don't want to walk in there and say, like, as we were talking earlier, I shoot for 4 different stock sites. So here, would you mind if I took your picture for stock photography? I have 4 releases for you to sign. And is this your shop? I have 4 more for you to sign for your shop. They're going to tell you to leave. So if you can, try and make sure that your release is as overarching as possible so that you can make them sign once. And I think for it to be technically legal as a model release, you have to do something in exchange for using their image. I've heard of photographers just giving a single dollar or giving prints, but there's got to be some back and forth, in theory, technically, for the model release to be legal. I've got one more subject: travel and exotic locations. So like we go, say, like I went to Asia, and I'm like, ooh, this is going to be great. I'm going to take so many fabulous photos of Asia while I'm there, and I'm going to be able to use them all. And as a tourist, we take pictures that we think are pretty of certain locations and places. But like, think about if somebody's doing a graphic design piece or an article about Black Rock Beach in Maui, right? Like, sure, you could take a picture of the beach and it looks great, but wouldn't you like to see what your family would look like on that beach, or picture yourself enjoying the trip? So if you can, and your family is willing and they're super attractive one way or the other, use them. But like having actual people interacting with the surroundings, you know, like bring your friends to the beach and have a beach party. Or I live in Florida, so I keep thinking beach. But like, you know, if you got all those sheep out there and you can, you know, have somebody looking like they're not, you know, doing anything bad, but they're out there doing what people do when they take care of sheep, then have that. You know,
Whatever.
It's a great field. It's a beautiful shot. There's some sheep. Nice. But like, you know, what's the part of owning the sheep and taking care of the sheep? Well, that would be an interesting shot that we probably don't have a lot of images of. You know, you have access to it and you can mock it up, even if it's not real. Do it. And it has to be genuine. That's the other thing. Like, people will do like model shots and they'll have somebody like on the phone. Oh my gosh. You know. I think it's best if you can actually have people who are actually going to be there to enjoy the scenery or to be there and actually do the job, because they're not going to be hamming it up for the camera because they don't know what they're doing. But if you can get them to fake it as genuinely as possible, that works as well. So, let's see here. How long have I been yammering on for now? How much time do
Not
we
long
have?
enough.
We have half an hour.
I still have a whole nother sheet here, so we're good.
Wonderful.
Can I
So-
ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
How long are you into this stuff, and how did it start for you to get so?
I bought my first DSLR and decided that made me a real photographer. And that would have been 2007 or 2008. So I bought my Nikon and decided I was going to start shooting stock, and I started shooting like paper clips and horrible pictures of just office supplies that were so useless. But it was a start, and I don't take good care to keep it going. But if I did, I would be doing a lot better. I just got interested in it because my camera cost so much to buy, I think. And it seemed like a good way to sort of get it to earn its own money. And the nice thing about it is sort of once you've got a portfolio established, you've already done the hard work of getting accepted into the stock site. You can always, you know, jump back in, you know, a few months later or a year later and upload more images. They're not going to make you go back through the review process or take your tests again. So that's kind of nice, you know. Get it going, get it started, and then like you log in if you've neglected it for a year and you go, holy cow, I got like $500 just sitting there for me. Woo! You know. It's best if you can keep it going, though, because the bigger your portfolio is, obviously, the more likely you are to hit on something somebody wants. But also, you're improving what you're putting in every time. You know, every 6 months you look back and you look at the first images you put in, you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that even sold to anybody. So, but that's sort of how I got started, was sort of the horror over how expensive my camera was, and I wanted to buy another camera. I needed to come up with an excuse to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
I have two things.
Okay.
Could you maybe go through a recommendation for someone to start? What would be the best agency for them to get to? And I guess the second part of that is versus the exclusive versus not exclusive.
Well, I did discuss the exclusivity versus the non-exclusivity.
What would you recommend?
What I would recommend. Okay. You know, it's really hard to know which site you're going to sell best on. I sell best on iStock Photo. Like, I make the most money on that site, which is funny because I think a lot of people do better on Shutterstock, and somebody else might do great on Dreamstime. But I wouldn't know that if I hadn't applied to multiple sites. So I've been pondering going exclusive because iStock Photo for me is leaps and bounds better than the other sites, and I feel like, you know, that portfolio has performed better, even though it's smaller and they're pickier than my Dreamstime and my Shutterstock. I don't look forward to trying to change the portfolios.
What was the first one you said?
Shutterstock is iStock Photo is my favorite for me. And they do a really great job of marketing. I mean, you'll see their advertisements in magazines all the time as a graphic designer. Like if you buy industry magazines, they advertise quite well, as does Shutterstock. So they're both working pretty hard to earn money for you and them. So and they're constantly working to upgrade their services and improve the website functions. And as a graphic designer who buys ridiculous quantities of iStock photo credits, they actually also reach out to people like me as a designer, and like they've called me to see how I'm doing and if I need any images. They've got great customer service, so all around I like them quite a bit. Whereas some of the other ones would be harder to get a hold of. You don't know who you're talking to on the phone. I call iStock Photo and I'm calling home. They're all Canadian, so it's nice.
Are there any stock photography companies left at all, or are they all microstock now?
Oh, there's still Getty Images and several big agencies out there. A lot of times, like I think Getty will actually show images from the bigger stock houses among their collections. And I know there's other agencies out there that you could go to directly, but as a graphic designer, we always just sort of jumped right into Getty Images because they'll show a lot of the photographer.
I'm assuming microstock means smaller payments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Which
Like
is why they exist now.
Yeah. It's
cheaper
smaller
for the buyer,
payments.
obviously.
Cheaper for the buyer. It's the photographer doesn't earn as much per download. But the other thing is there've been a number of people who've been tapped to become better paid on, say, iStock Photo. There's different levels of photographers on there. Like if you do a search for an image, for example, on iStock Photo, let's see, and you see a different color next to their name, like if there's a teal roll of film, hold on, let me see if I'm speaking correctly. Let's see, I'm going to look for a boat. So you'll see a teal camera or a copper colored camera, and those images sell for a higher rate than other images in the library. So for example, a small image that's 566 by 848 pixels sells for 30 credits, and credits I think are $1.62 a piece. So I mean that's not a $5 image, you know. Whereas if you buy from one of the base photographers, it's a much less expensive image, but then the quality isn't quite the same either.
I'm sorry, just going back to the credit part. How does that work? I'm just reading it here, the iStock credits. How does that translate?
So it depends on how many you buy, what your rate per credit is. Like when I buy credits as a graphic designer, I try to buy them in groups of thousands, so that I actually pay closer to $1 per. But I think if you buy the smallest amount of credits, it's like 20 credits you have to buy, I believe. I think that's the smallest amount, or it's 10. But I believe your per credit rate then is about $1.62 a piece.
Okay. That's obviously a way that the company's making money.
Oh yeah.
The way they've used that.
Yeah.
So, Suzanne, what's the process of going through to apply for this then? What's the typical, what do you have to do?
It's been a while since I have personally applied to a microstock site, but at the time, basically, and Andre's been doing this too.
Yep.
What you need to do is get, say, anywhere between 5 and 10 images of your best work, and make sure it's totally clean. The images have got to be really, really clean. So like no creative focus, at least on these ones. You know, you want to keep it really, really sharp. Make sure that the subject is crisp, and like the narrow depth of field is fantastic. But like you can't. I wouldn't recommend using that type of imagery for your submission. Make sure there's no noise, no chromatic aberration. Check for any sensor dust or dirt. Make sure that you haven't over compressed your images anywhere. If they see any artifacting anywhere on the image, that's gone. And lens flare, unless it's absolutely intentional within the image. But again, like they're not looking for necessarily your creativity at this point. They want to make sure that you technically can shoot. And then
And what sizes are we looking at here?
it probably depends on the site.
Sizes?
I mean, at the time, yeah.
Image
like at the
file
time, I think
sizes?
I had like an 8 megapixel camera. when I first applied. So as long as your images aren't like cropped down smaller, you'd be fine shooting on an 8 megapixel camera without shrinking or compressing your image.
I think it depends on the server. Some said 8, some said 10 at least, or
Yeah.
it depends on what quality standards they've set.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you can't shoot up to a certain size and you still get accepted, they just won't be able to offer the full range of image sizes to the people who want to buy them. And sometimes that's a huge downer as a graphic designer. Like if I'm doing booth graphics, for a convention center and I need a giant life-size poster, but I can't buy your image because it's only 8 by 10. Yeah, can't use it. It can only get so big. So. Does that help? Sort of. I think beyond that, they'll make you fill out like a W-2. I don't know what they do for Canada. I'm not sure what the tax situation is, but they want to have you fill out a tax form, so they'll get your social number and make sure that they get you all your legitimate tax documents at the end of the year.
Moving.
Go ahead.
Sorry, can I? Yeah. Just moving on to going back, should I say, to you talked about the numbers. It's a numbers game. The more you've got, etc.
Yeah.
What's a typical upload for you? Per day or per session? Would you find you upload? And also, what software would you use for that?
Okay. Yes. Well, so I have slacked as of late, but typically I would try to per upload session. I believe they'll limit you. A lot of sites will. Per session to say 20 to 30 images. Beyond that, they're not going to let you sit down and upload 100 images. So they give you a limit, you upload to that limit, and they'll go through and review them. As they're accepted, you can continue to upload. So what I would do is try to, if you do a few photo shoots or do one photo shoot a week, pull out the best 15 images, submit those. If they get through, then grab the next best 15.
Right.
So there are resources for helping you upload. So like if you are uploading to multiple stock sites to help streamline your process. I have some information about the upload process, which is a big pain. But once you sort of get into the flow of it, you're in pretty good shape. I would say that's probably a good argument for having a set schedule, So like let's say every other Thursday, you're going to upload to the stock site. So you're investing X number of hours to sort your images, keyword your images. If you want to put any metadata in it, put that in there and get everything organized, all of your model releases and property releases ready to go so that it's not like, you start on Monday and, oh shoot, I forgot my model releases, or oh shoot, I forgot I have to keyword these. If you set aside the time, it would probably make it a lot easier. There is a site called pickworkflow.com. Let's see if I can get this up for you guys. And they will help you submit your images to multiple stock sites. And I believe they also have a service that you can pay for to help keyword your images for you. And some stock sites will let you have them charge you for that as well. Like Dreams Time, I think they charge 10 cents or 20 cents per image to keyword it for you.
And would you recommend that being the best method?
Not necessarily.
Obviously not the cheapest, but...
Right, yeah. I mean, if you're doing that every week. I suppose once you get established and you're earning enough money and you're producing enough work that if you wanted to pay someone to keyword your work for you, go for it. But probably as you're getting started, it's going to be cheaper. Not easier, but cheaper for you to keyword it yourself. You'll learn a lot as you do it too.
Keywording will be vitally important to get right, though, won't it?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it is worth that initial payment to get it done right to start with. You've got more chance of getting it in.
Yeah, my only argument is as you first start doing it, you might think you're doing great work that people are going to download, but it might take you a little while to sort of grasp what's going to work for you. So you might find that you invested that money into images that just aren't going to sell because they're, really saturated already out there, or they're just not needed. So one of the methods that I use is I'll go on to a website. It's the findphotokeywords.com or even Picniche to help you find keywords. Hold on, let's see.
All right. While you search for it, I've got a question regarding keywording. Um, now that I'm registered with iStock Photo, yeah, I went
Yes.
through the process and whatever,
Ta-da!
and it says international, and I can do keywording, but I can switch to German language. Who
Okay.
translates my keywords, or do I have to do it myself somehow, or um, yeah, those sites exist in multiple languages, and my keyword should be in every language, or can
No, like I don't have to make my keywords in English, German, Spanish, French.
yeah.
I believe they would actually take care of that on their side. But if you have questions like that, their customer service is fantastic. And they also have online forum for iStock photo contributors as
I, kn-
well. So
I know that you have to put your keywords in English. They have to be in English. But they say that you can add foreign language, but you have to have the main keywords in English.
okay. Another thing that I would do when I was keywording would be to do a search for images that I thought would be similar to mine, and see what keywords other photographers used. Because you might forget to include, say, like let's say you do a portrait and it's somebody who's sitting here like this, right? Well, so you're close up on their eyes, you've got face, you've got a woman, hair, female, thinking, pondering, fist, hand, close up. And then if this area over here is white, you've got copy space. Is it high key? Is it moody? Is she happy? Is she sad? There's so many different words that you would actually use to keyword your image that it's really easy to sort of forget to think about every aspect. Are her eyes green? Are they brown? Are her eyes open or closed? Is her hair straight? Is it curly? Is it brown? Is it blonde? Does she have bangs? Does she
Yeah.
not have bangs? Is she wearing a sweater, a tank top, a blouse? Is it warm? Is it cold? All these things. What color is her shirt? All of those things.
So
are keywords.
next to high quality and finding your niche, the most important thing is good keywording, I guess.
Yeah. Really throw a lot of keywords in. But also make sure that they're relevant to what you've got in the image.
But damn.
Like if there's not a computer in the image, please do not say computer. Because like as a graphic designer, when I'm searching for certain stuff, it's like you can just tell who just keyworded the same keywords to like 5 images because they got lazy or tired and forgot to remove certain keywords. It's like there isn't a grapefruit in the picture anywhere, and I was looking for a grapefruit. But finding other images that are similar helps. Sorry, go ahead.
A keywording site that I use occasionally is run by or was compiled by Uriah Cause, who is quite a well-known stock photographer. He's got a large company with several photographers employed. That's his link there, and you type in a couple of keywords and it tosses up images from sites, and then you get to pick which word you want to use out of all those images. You pick a couple of images, it'll come up with all the keywords attached, and then you can just select the images, the appropriate keywords for your images.
That's good.
It's quite a good one, but yeah.
And that's a huge part of the process. It's just the keywording. I mean, that's really going to suck your time up. But like I said, you could pay for it if you wanted to. I've never paid for it, and so I don't really know how hard the actual staff works to cover all the bases. Or, so is it good to use it because they know it better than anybody, sort of what keywords people are searching on? Or is it worse because they don't care? They're just, low level pay, just in there working all day in a cube, keywording images, and can't wait till the next smoke break. I don't know, so I don't have experience paying for them, and I can't tell you one way or the other what I would recommend as far as that. But you could always try a few and see if they seem to perform better when you pay for the keywords, since it's not that expensive if you only do it a few times.
It must be a pretty competitive market. I mean, it's an obvious place to sell your images. somewhere for any amount of money if you're not selling your images. So, I mean, there must be literally thousands and thousands of photographers actually doing this.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. So one of the sites, I think it might be PicNiche, will actually also help you figure out the ranking of what you are trying to sell. It'll give you an idea of how much people are searching for that particular subject or that particular topic that you're covering. So it could give you an idea, even maybe before you go out and shoot, to give you an idea. All right, this is a hot topic, or this is so covered, it's over. Like, forget it. Don't even shoot that subject. So that can help. Other ways that you can find things to shoot, though, is Dreams Time will tell you assignments on a monthly basis. Like, we are looking for images of X, and I believe this month's assignment is kids playing with their pets. So they do try to provide those types of resources. So like, here's the Dreams Time assignments. And iStock Photo also provides trends. So highest rated files for the last 3 months and most popular downloads for the last 3 months. Oh, the other thing that I did not put together, but I think exists out there somewhere, is a calendar. So like, if you wanted to take pictures that were going to sell Christmas, or they're going to sell at a holiday, we have like the 4th of July here, or Halloween, Valentine's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day, blah, blah, blah. Don't start shooting them like a month before. It's not going to do you any good. First of all, the process it takes to get the images into the site and the time it takes for them to review and approve them, if you're too late, you might as well wait till next year. So try to think at least 6 months in advance, if not longer. And I believe if you Google that, when to submit for holidays, stock sites type of thing, I think there's a calendar out there that can help with that information. As a graphic designer, a lot of times our stuff starts getting developed for Christmas, like at least 4 months in advance. Because if we've got to go to press with something, we start the layout, it's got to go to the client approves it, it gets sent to the press prints it, cuts it, then it goes to the mailing, and if it's bulk mailed, it's got to be there X number of weeks in advance. We're planning way in advance, so don't wait to the last minute to be shooting for holidays. So there's a couple of websites that are really helpful as far as just sort of giving you insight to the microstock world, their experiences. They have got reviews on different microstock sites, different tips and tricks, different tools. One is microstockdiaries.com. And I used to actually subscribe to their newsletter, and they would just sort of report on how they're selling. And the other is microstockinsider.com. So if you have, some interest in sort of really digging in, those are 2 really good websites where you can pick up some pretty good knowledge. Because that's what these guys do all the time.
Cool. We'll put those under the video then, all those links.
Yeah. Do you guys have any additional questions? Oh, I have one more tip, if you have a second. I know you guys are maybe short on time.
No.
Or we're good on time.
Mm-hmm.
Andre's hard drive isn't full yet, so.
Right. All right. So one more. There's 2 tips that I would offer up. Like, if you are, going to be submitting your work, do not crop in on your image. Even though, Don, I know you love the square crop. I know you love it. Don't do it.
Understood.
Let the graphic designer do the crop. So provide
Right.
the image, even if it doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing when it's got the full frame. Just leave it.
You need room for text anyway.
We need options. Maybe the image would have been great if we had just 2 more inches that way, or 2 more inches this way. So leave the image, don't crop it, just leave it. If you are shooting images isolated on a white or black background, or even if you aren't, consider adding clipping paths to your photographs. Because as a graphic designer, sometimes I just need to drop a bow on something because it's Christmas. And I don't want to to spend the time to cut out the stupid bow myself. If you've done it for me, and I do a search on iStock Photo, and I look for bow and clipping paths, and your picture shows up, you've got a way better shot than all the other pictures of bows.
Now, does that mean that you're going to post a PSD file or a compressed
It's in
TIFF?
the JPEG.
It's in the JPEG. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep. And it's so nice when that's what I'm looking for, and I buy the image, and there's the clipping path. It just makes me so happy. Makes me so happy. And don't forget to put that in your keywords. That you have a clipping path.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as a both, you've done stock photography and you've also a buyer as a graphic designer. What do you take into account when you're looking at a picture, apart from what you're actually looking for, the content or whatever? How does the price or the licensing relate to your decision to buy?
Okay. Oh, because like one of the things that Andre was talking about at one point was like rights managed versus royalty free, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way. I don't want to spend the time as a graphic designer to try and talk with somebody on the phone and go over how the image is going to be used and get out my crystal ball and try to determine what the client's going to do for the next 6 months or how long they're going to use the image. I don't want the hassle of going with rights managed. Number one, unless my client's got a good budget. And number two, as long as I know precisely what the project's going to do. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my time or the money. Unless the image is that awesome.
I was going to say, as an extension to that question, obviously, for the photographer, if he's going to sell his images, he's going to do it royalty-free because he's got more chance of selling it quickly.
Yes. As a graphic designer... sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, what would, as a photographer, what would make you decide to make it rights managed? What's the difference between, say, one that you want to sell quickly, obviously, you go for already free. What would persuade the photographer to actually make it rights managed?
I would suggest those are the people who want to have a bit more control. They aren't going to be the ones, though, if they submit it to the stock site, they're not going to be the ones negotiating with the client. But it's less likely that, like, Jimbo Jones, who runs his own blog about widgets, is going to download your image. So it's probably more likely to be used in higher end materials. It doesn't, again, mean though that like if you're a Republican and a Democrat uses your image, or the vice versa, you don't have control over that. They can still have a pretty good budget that way, but it's less likely that it's going to show up everywhere and be that one of those annoying ads on the side that's, on a website that's animating.
Do you have the option of like supplying images both as royalty free and rights managed?
I believe you do.
Yeah.
I believe you do. Probably depends on the site. One of the things I was going to say as a graphic designer, though, rights managed, the benefit of that is not everybody's buying that image. So even if it's fantastic, if my client is selling organic underpants and he's going to an event where it's the Organic Underpants Convention Center event, I don't know why that's the particular item, but it is.
We could suggest something.
Dolphin-free cotton.
Dolphin-free cotton, yeah. And you found this
cotton.
great picture of a dolphin. You want to get that as rights managed if you can, because if that one fantastic shot of a dolphin on an iStock photo, everybody's probably going to have it at that convention. And I've actually had that happen to a couple of clients where, their budget was small, but, we found this great image. It was totally appropriate to the topic and what they were selling. They get there, and 2 booths down, that guy had it too. Oh, no! So, that's why we shoot our own stock now, or why we try to go to Getty Images to buy instead, or try to buy, like, the more expensive microstock images as well, because they're not selling to as many people, and we're willing to pay the premium to have something that's a little more unique out in the market.
Very good.
Great. I think we're almost out of time. So what?
Not that I didn't enjoy this, but I feel like we filled it up pretty well. I think the biggest thing to do, though, if you want to get into this, is start. Get it going. Don't just, get in and sort of get disenfranchised and grumble and walk away. Keep trying. The first time you apply, you might not get in, even if you're a fantastic photographer. It might take you 2 or 3 tries to submit just the right images. And try to set up a schedule. So like, if you can't shoot every week, at least do like 1 stock shoot a month, you know, and that'll help your portfolio grow. That'll help you be consistent, and eventually you'll start to get some traction. But if you just start it up and leave it out there, it's not going to do you any good either. And the more frequently you upload your images, the more favorably many of the sites will place your images. So if you started a portfolio like I did in 2007 or 2008, and you haven't been back since then, your images aren't going to be the top ones that show up. You need to remain active.
All right. Thank you, Suzanne, for that.
Thanks,
insight.
Suzanne.
Yes.
Thanks, it was awesome.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
I learned a lot.
Yeah,
Woohoo!
me too. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks.
So great, and thank you, and bye to our viewers.
Your
All
viewers
5 of
are
you.
best.
Thanks, Mom.
You're on TV, Don.